Try this experiment with me right now. Take your hand and try to tickle yourself under your arm or on the bottom of your foot. You can clearly feel your fingers touching your skin, yet the intense ticklish sensation and uncontrollable laughter simply do not appear. However, when another person tickles the exact same spot, the reaction can be immediate. You laugh, twist your body, and instinctively try to pull away. This simple everyday experience reveals something remarkable about how the human brain works. The difference between these two situations does not lie in the skin or the nerves but in the brain's extraordinary ability to predict sensory experiences. A key structure involved in this process is the cerebellum, which helps the brain distinguish sensations produced by our own actions from those generated by the outside world. To understand why this happens, we first need to understand how the body normally processes touch. The human skin contains thousands of specialized sensory receptors that detect mechanical stimuli such as pressure, vibration, and movement across the skin surface. When these receptors are stimulated, they convert physical forces into electrical signals. These signals travel through peripheral nerves to the spinal cord and then to the brain. In the brain, touch information is mainly processed in the somatosensory cortex, a region responsible for interpreting tactile sensations and mapping them to different parts of the body. However, tickling is not just a simple touch sensation. It also involves emotional reactions, reflexive body movements, and laughter, which means that several brain systems must work together to produce the experience. Scientists generally describe two different types of tickling sensations. The first type is called nysmesis, which refers to light tickling. This occurs when the skin is gently stimulated, for example when a feather brushes against the skin or when a small insect crawls across the arm. Instead of causing laughter, this sensation usually produces itching or irritation. The second type is called gargalysis, which is the intense form of tickling that produces laughter and strong reactions. Gargalysis usually occurs in particularly sensitive areas of the body such as the ribs, neck, underarms, and feet. Interestingly, these regions are also vulnerable parts of the body where important organs or blood vessels are located. Some scientists believe that tickling may have evolved as a protective reflex that encourages individuals to guard these sensitive areas. The reason self-tickling does not work lies in the brain's powerful predictive system. When you decide to move any part of your body, the brain does not simply send a command to the muscles and then wait for sensory feedback. Instead, the brain simultaneously predicts what the sensory consequences of that movement will be. This predictive signal is known in neuroscience as an efference copy or corollary discharge. The cerebellum plays a crucial role in generating these predictions by integrating information about motor commands with expected sensory outcomes. When you attempt to tickle yourself, your brain already knows exactly when your fingers will touch your skin, where the touch will occur, and how strong the sensation will be. Because the brain can accurately predict the sensation, it reduces the strength of the incoming sensory signals once they reach the brain. This reduction in sensory response is known as sensory attenuation. Sensory attenuation allows the brain to filter out sensations produced by its own actions so that it can focus on unexpected or important events occurring in the environment. In other words, the brain recognizes that the touch is self-generated and therefore does not require a strong reaction. As a result, the tickling sensation disappears, even though the sensory receptors in the skin are still being activated. When another person tickles you, however, the situation changes completely. Your brain cannot perfectly predict when the touch will occur, where it will happen, or how strong it will be. This unpredictability prevents the brain from reducing the sensory signals in advance. As a result, the incoming signals from the skin are processed fully by the somatosensory cortex and other brain regions involved in emotional and behavioral responses. These additional brain areas contribute to the laughter, surprise, and reflexive movements that typically occur during tickling. Scientific experiments have provided strong evidence for this explanation. In some studies, researchers used robotic devices that allowed participants to attempt to tickle themselves. When the robotic device moved in perfect synchrony with the participants' hand movements, participants reported little or no tickling sensation. However, when researchers introduced even a very small delay between the movement of the participant's hand and the touch produced by the robotic device, the sensation suddenly became ticklish. The delay disrupted the brain's prediction of the sensory outcome, making the touch feel unexpected and therefore more intense. Beyond the immediate sensory explanation, tickling may also serve important social and evolutionary purposes. Tickling interactions frequently occur during playful situations, particularly between parents and children. These interactions may strengthen emotional bonds and encourage social communication. Another possibility is that tickling helps train the body to protect vulnerable areas. Because ticklish regions correspond to sensitive parts of the body such as the ribs and neck, the reflexive movements triggered during tickling may help individuals learn to defend these areas quickly in potentially threatening situations. In summary, the reason you cannot tickle yourself is not because your skin lacks sensitivity. Instead, your brain possesses a sophisticated predictive system that distinguishes between sensations generated by your own movements and those produced by external sources. The cerebellum predicts the sensory consequences of your actions and reduces the brain's response through a process known as sensory attenuation. When someone else tickles you, the sensation becomes unpredictable, and the brain processes the stimulus fully, producing the familiar ticklish feeling and laughter. This remarkable ability allows the brain to separate self-generated sensations from external stimuli and plays an essential role in how we perceive and interact with the world around us.